You know what? Captains are really, really important, whether you're on Star Trek or whether you're on a football team.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me trying to get a fountain in the background. Bama Online's Jimmy Stein. That's him. We are happy that you guys join us every single day because you are the best. You everydayers, thank you so much. And we want to thank you everydayers for being here every day. And thank you newbies for being here today. And thanks for making us your first listen. So we're just full of gratitude. And Jimmy, great article on On3. That's where you live, On3, in the virtual world. And the article is talking about, okay, who are the potential captains for next year? And, you know, I think this year captains are more important than ever. Number one, because they're more up for grabs. Last year, it was pretty easy. You know, I mean, definitely Jalen Milroe was going to be one. I mean, there just wasn't that was just a lock. There isn't a lock this year, if you ask me. Now, in the article, I'll just run down a few of the names, and then I'll let you go on a rant about them. Rant implies that it's something bad.
Yeah, that I'm upset.
No, it's not a rant. I'll let you go on a soliloquy.
What's your hot take on the Potter piece? There you go. What's your hot take on Potter's piece?
It's one of these jackasses you think is going to lead us. So, no, you got Deontae Lawson, Parker Brailsford, or Caden Proctor, I guess. Tim Keenan, Jeremy Bernard, Keon Sabb, Damani Jackson. And, of course, you could have a quarterback, and then there's also Jam Miller. I guess you could throw him in there. Now, I'm going to go, of all that group, I'm going to say, look, I don't think there's anybody that you can say he's a definite. The closest thing to definite in that group to me is Deontae Lawson. I think it's best unless it's a super special safety or a super special defensive lineman, I think it's best that your defensive leader is a linebacker. I mean, just logistically, he's right in the middle, you know? And I think he's the combo of everything, sort of jack of all trades kind of guy that he can stop the run, he can cover, he can do all that. And not only that, Deontae Lawson's from the state of Alabama. I normally wouldn't care much. I think this upcoming year, it might mean a little more. And I know that for the most part, if you watch this podcast, you know I don't care if we get all Alabama guys or all guys from California or all guys from Alaska or Puerto Rico or the 51st state in Canada. I don't care where our guys come from or anywhere in the Gulf of America. I'll take them. These jokes just aren't landing today.
I mean, it's good. It's good. I was just sort of stunned.
Is it too topical? Is it?
No. We've had a couple of Gulf of America references, and I think it's funny both times.
Okay, so, but I think it's good to at least have one, if not two, or three captains that are from the state of Alabama this year, just to maybe re-energize that side. And there are going to be some people that listen to this podcast say, look, you know what you're talking about. That's stupid. And maybe it is. Maybe it is. I'm just saying from my personal preference. So we choose three, right?
Two on each side.
Okay, two on each side. I don't know why I've always thought it was three. We choose two on each side.
Three in the past. It's been three in the past, but I think DeBoer likes two on each side.
Listen, I'm going to go Deontae Lawson for one. I'm also going to go Tim Keenan for one. Those are my defensive guys. Now, you want to say that Sabb or Damani Jackson, maybe better players than Tim Keenan, in the grand scheme of all things football. I can buy that. Number one, Tim Keenan is a dude that stuck around, and Deontae Lawson did too, and I appreciate that a lot. And they've been here the whole time, and they're from Alabama. It gets sticky after that on the offensive side. Because what are you going to do? Is he going to be Wilkin Formby? We don't even know if he's necessarily starting yet. We don't know that. So I think we've got to go outside the box. And I'm going to go Parker Brailsford because number one, I just saw him the other day, and
Okay. Good
I
enough.
love his hair, but he also is just he's got a magnetic personality. He is so unassumingly friendly. Um, and then I'm thinking, Jimmy, call me crazy. I'm kind of thinking Jeremy Bernard, and let me tell you why. There, I have arrived to that reason that he knows the coaching staff really well. He has followed them around, and it's sort of like saying, well, same thing with Parker Brailsford too. Actually, I don't know why I didn't bring that up, but my reason for Parker Brailsford is more, hey, whoever's behind you with their hands in your tuchus, not in you, but right beside it, getting that.
Yikes. Yikes.
They're
Holy,
like, what sport are you playing?
holy Gulf of America.
But he's behind you.
Yeah.
You be the leader. You be the offensive line leader, which is a big part and a big leader. But Jeremy Bernard, I'm looking at like he's going to know what this coaching staff wants. And we got a lot of young wide receivers. Ryan Williams, hey, he turned 18, but he's still young. So I'm going Jeremy Bernard, Tim Keenan, Deontae Lawson, Parker Brailsford. Tell me where I'm wrong.
I wouldn't tell you that you're wrong anywhere because it could easily work out that way. Again, Charlie's piece on BOL's excellent. Kind of goes over, I think, all the serious candidates or significant candidates. And let's keep in mind, DeBoer likes to name the captains prior to the season. That's not a Saban thing. That's completely different. Saban named the captains after the season. DeBoer likes to do it prior to the season. And keep in mind, the players have a lot of input and vote and stuff like that. But I look at it very similarly to Luke. I think defensively, if there is a lock, it's Deontae Lawson, and Luke's pointed that out. He was a captain last year. Um, I think Deontae Lawson is sort of like, okay, if we're gonna say someone's a lock on the defensive side, it's that. I'm also with Luke. Luke went with Tim Keenan. I'll say I will also lean Tim Keenan on the defensive side as being the second captain. So that's going to be my prediction that it's Keenan. But I do think Keon Sabb is an outstanding leader, a true leader on the team. He's going to be on the leadership council or the leadership group for sure, whether he's a captain or not. So I do think Sabb is highly possible there. He just has a magnetic leadership personality and is highly respected in the locker room. Of course, Keenan is too. Keenan's been here longer and is an in-state guy, like Luke pointed out. That I don't think is a factor, but I think it's just the cherry on top sort of a situation. So I'll go Lawson and Keenan like Luke did on defense. Offensively, agreed again with Luke. I think Parker Brailsford, I wouldn't say it's as much as of a lock as Lawson is on defense, but I do think Parker Brailsford is close to a lock on offense. The center is the offensive line's leader. He's a year 4 guy. This will be his 3rd year starting as a college football player. Um, the staff has already chosen him to be front and center a couple of times already as it relates to the 2025 football team. Another great personality. I just think he's the leader of the offensive line. So I'd put Parker Brailsford in there. The second spot, just like defense, is a little more arguable. Luke settled on Jeremy Bernard. I'm going to say that very well could be the case. It very well could be the case. I'm going to go Jam Miller here just simply because Jam has been at Alabama while Jeremy, came here with the last staff. I think Jam being at Alabama for 4 years, sticking it out, and while Jam is going to have to share that running back spot with other guys, he's kind of certain to be the leader of that running back group. So I'll say Parker and Jam, but it could very well be Jeremy, as Luke predicted, and it could be Ty Simpson if he wins the quarterback spot easily. I don't think they'll give it to Ty in the preseason if it's uncertain as who the quarterback's going to be. So when are they going to vote? What does Ty look like this spring, which begins shockingly in 12 days?
Yeah, because that would be super embarrassing, even though it probably shouldn't be. Is like if you're named the starting quarterback and then you're beat out and you're the captain. Yeah. Now, the positive to that is what better opportunity to prove that you are truly a captain, that you are team first, that you are, like I'm assuming, boy, tell me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming Jalen Hurts was a captain in 2008. Not 18, maybe 17?
I don't think so.
He wasn't in 17?
I don't think so. I don't remember it that way. I don't think so because he was
Okay. He might
true
not have been.
sophomore.
Okay.
I don't believe so.
In my story that I'm creating out of thin air to make sound awesome, Jalen Hurts was the captain in 2017, and he loved on Tua Tagovailoa when he came in at halftime and won the national championship for us. I mean, in my hallmark version of that.
He carried himself like a captain in 17. Heck, he carried himself like a captain in 16. The quarterback's sort of almost an unofficial captain. It's just, it's got to be a little unnerving when the quarterback position might change. Heck, if you name Ty captain today, what happens if he's quote terrible this spring and Keelan becomes the quarterback and Ty leaves this summer? You can't have your captain portaling out. And that's a crazy hypothetical. I'm just saying that the quarterback position, unless it's settled, it could get a little queasy if you're going to go captain there. But I like our picks, and they're extremely similar. I think, we both went Lawson, Brailsford. We both went Keenan. Just the slight discrepancy between Jeremy and Jam as a second offense. It could be either one or someone else, even a Josh Cuevas, who's going to be a senior tight end, or you go another offensive lineman. I mean, Jaden Roberts is a fifth-year senior. Caden Proctor could very well be in his last year in college football as a true junior. Proctor also has some leadership. You brought out Wilkin Formby. He's definitely a leader type guy up front. I think he'll be the right tackle, but like Luke said, he's not in stone like Brailsford, Proctor, and Roberts are. But
sorry about that. I had to cut you off to get this break.
No, let's do a break. Into it. I'm into it if we're going to do the break.
Well done. Good segue. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was dealing with piles of paperwork and frustrating forms, and then waiting and wondering and worrying if you're going to get any money back. Now taxes are easily uploaded forms to a TurboTax expert who's matched to your unique tax situation. An expert who's backed by the latest technology, which cross-checks millions of data points for 100% accuracy. While they work on your taxes, you get real-time updates on their progress, and you get the most money back. And that's a guarantee. All while you go about your regular old day of doing nothing. No streaming, no worrying, no waiting. Now, this is how taxes are done. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Jimmy, we always love a Fong bomb.
Boom.
Assuming that means a prediction of a recruit and not anything to do with a lavatory. I bet you if he has kids, they're like, we don't like the Fong bomb. But
if his kids are funny.
Why is that so funny to me?
If his kids are funny, they could use this.
If his kids listen to the podcast, and we know they do, it's now going to be a thing at the Wilt Fong household.
It's cool that that's such a universal thing. Even people that don't subscribe to On3, everybody in recruiting that follows recruiting knows a Fong bomb. And actually at On3, it's an RPM, which is the official prediction. And Fong had one yesterday, which is really exciting.
And he had one for Mac Sutter, who is a tight end from Dunlap, Illinois. Now, when the first thing I saw this, when I saw that Alabama is recruiting a tight end from Dunlap, Illinois, I was thinking, oh, he's going to Illinois. I mean, he may like Alabama, but Brett Bielema is at Illinois. The only two people he recruits are gigantic offensive linemen, tight ends, and big Ron Dane fullbacks. That's all he recruits. But Wilt Fong says, I love where Alabama sits. Now, let me tell you a little bit about his ranking. He is, again, kind of weirdly, On3 has him at number 228 in the country. Everybody else has him 130 and above. 247 has him 94 in the country. ESPN 130. Rivals 104. He is the number one player in Illinois according to ESPN, but only the number 5 player according to On3, and he's a 4-star across the board. I also pulled up his picture, and my first comment, and again, this is no insult, slight, or anything. He looks incredibly athletic just in the face. I also feel like for whatever reason, he was really, really interested in the Eminem versus Machine Gun Kelly rivalry from about 4 years ago.
That's a nice leap. Nice leap.
Of course, I was too, and I couldn't play tight end either. So.
Right. I'm a big Max Sutter fan. You know, he's this is a universal top 10 tight end, universal top 10 in terms of recruiting rankings, which again are very early stages, and we shouldn't latch on to rankings like, hey, this is going to be it. They're going to undergo 6 or 8 revisions between now and when they're finalized. But I did watch his huddle, because once Steve Wiltfong is made an RPM, it should be taken very seriously. And I did, and I went to huddle. And let me tell you, I'm super impressed by him, super impressed. And this is why tight ends are either blockers or pass receivers. That tends to be the case. It's rare you get a guy that's really good at both. But what I love about his highlight tape is it was smartly put together because it highlights both. He's clearly a pass receiver first type guy. He lines up at wide receiver. He runs wide receiver routes. He has extremely good hands. This is a move around, catch first tight end in the Josh Cuevas sense. But the reason he's a top 10 tight end nationally is he was smart enough to put several clips on his tape which highlight his physicality. And a bonus here, he plays some defense and is a good pass rusher and is a good defensive prospect if you watch his tape defensively. So guys that play tight end as a receiver in a receiver role, but also play defense in the front 7, there's your physicality. There's your guy that doesn't mind mixing it up in the tackle box. I think he is definitely top 10 in the country, and I would love it if Alabama gets this guy over Illinois. Luke brought up Illinois. I agree. They're probably the top competition here. Alabama also likes Mark Bowman from California, who's you're going to have to beat Georgia, and they did pretty good signing a tight end out of California a few cycles back.
Where they're Viking.
Yeah, Brock Bowers is from California. This kid from Santa Ana, Mark Bowman, who's fantastic. But Alabama's got to beat Georgia to get him. Have to beat Illinois to get Max Sutter. But I love Sutter. I mean, this isn't just, hey, this looks okay. No. This kid could be really good because he checks all the tight end boxes and not just one, because so many of them just kind of check one box and you just hope they're adequate at the other major skill. But I think Sutter could be an outstanding pass receiver and an outstanding blocker.
Yeah, and he does seem to look like on the surface and in the highlights a perfect Kalen DeBoer type tight end. Another thing that just jumped out at me, and I don't know why I've never looked at this before, but again, you guys over at On3 do a great job. And if y'all think that like On3's paying me to say that they do a good job, On3 gives me nothing. They pay Jimmy something because he actually works over there, but like Jimmy doesn't tell me, hey, they say some good things about On3. No, I mean, this is just, when you look at enough recruiting rankings for what have I done it like 30 something years, you start to understand the ones that are better than the others. And I think On3 does the best job. But regardless, y'all have a thing where you talk about the distance from the player to the various places, the top 5 or 6 that he's looking at in terms of schools. Now, of course, University of Illinois is 90 miles from him. But then these are his other offers. Of course, Bama that we talked about, Penn State, Ole Miss, and Ohio State. Bama's 544 miles, but Ole Miss is 450, Penn State is 616, and Ohio State is 353. So it's like, it's not he's just thinking about a bunch of teams around him, and Alabama is like this outlier that we're going to have to convince him. No, based on what I'm reading here, it seems like this kid is certainly open to getting out of wherever he is. And hey, if I'm going to put in my own Luke bomb for Max Sutter.
Yeah, I mean, you got to beat Illinois. I mean, to me, it looks like he's got a decision. Do I stay home or do I leave? And that, hey, when leaving seems good for a lot of kids until it comes down to decision time. And at decision time, a lot decide, okay, well, I probably need to stay closer to home. And you got Illinois, who's on an uptick, no doubt. I mean, 10 wins last year. They are a hot team in terms of projected playoff appearance this upcoming season. They got the good quarterback, Luke Altmaier. That, as Luke points out, they have a tight end friendly system right now. I mean, I don't think beating Illinois for him is going to be a walk in the park, but it is definitely comforting to get that Fong bomb, and now a Luke, the Luke bomb.
People are so excited. Another guy we should talk about that set a visit for Alabama, and that's Cincere Johnson. And I sincerely hope he makes it.
200 tackles, 41 tackles for loss.
Good God.
And when you watch his highlight tape, you wonder why there weren't even more. I mean, he's crazy. My comp for him is over the top, and people, like, based on where his ranking is right now, it's over the top. I get that. But he plays like Reuben Foster played. I mean, there's a lot of Reuben Foster in his game. Now, I do think there's one slight question mark here. There's not a lot of tape of him in coverage, and he's going to have to prove that. But, there were doubts about Reuben in that regard, and Reuben ended up pretty good in coverage. He ended up late in his career, really good at it, though he didn't start till he was a junior, and I think in part because he had to learn to play in space. So that's going to be the challenge for Cincere, is playing in space. But in that tackle box, as a run defender, he's fantastic. I mean, big time. So he's going to visit Alabama May 31st. I think that was also reported by On3. Big time player. Got to beat Ohio State to get Cincere, an Ohio kid from Ohio State. And when people say, "Oh, forget it, there's never going to happen," Alabama just did it with Justin Hill. They just beat Ohio State, 4 in Ohio, front 7 guy in the last class. So they could do it again. Cincere likes Alabama a lot. No one has RPM'd him to Alabama like we just discussed with Max Sutter, but I think Alabama's got a real shot at Cincere Johnson. And again, boy, if you like watching Reuben Foster, turn on his huddle tape. It's a wow tape, and you would expect it to be wow tape with a kid who had 200 tackles and 41 tackles for loss, and like 10 sacks.
You know what I would take? I would take, not that Reuben was not a sure tackler, but I would take a little tiny bit less aggressiveness for more guaranteed tackles. I'm not saying Reuben missed a lot of tackles. He over pursued from time to time, but it didn't matter because he usually just knocked the soul out of people that he did hit. Reuben was fantastic. I mean, even Saban says he's one of his favorite players ever. I'm not trying to critique Reuben.
Yeah, maybe not the most fundamentally sound.
Maybe not the most fundamental. I would take, that's a better way to say it. I would take a tiny bit less pow at point of contact and a tiny bit more fundamental if that's what Cincere Johnson is. And then I think you've created the perfect linebacker.
Well, I think the question is, going forward in college football, is the inside linebacker you want Reuben Foster, or is the inside linebacker you want C.J. Mosley? Because I think C.J., who came, actually I think before Reuben, I think C.J. is kind of more of today's prototype inside linebacker. He's had a lot of success in the NFL too. And I think so. The question for Cincere would be, all right, you're going to have to cover, tight ends. You're going to have to drop into zone coverage and make plays in that way. And can you do that? That'll be the challenge for him. But let me tell you, as a run defender, and that's what 40 and almost 50% of plays as a run defender, A++.
There's also a great article on 3 about some in-state dudes and how Alabama is making some serious waves on these in-state folks. We might address that a little bit tomorrow. It deserves more time than we have in this segment remaining. Basketball-wise, Alabama dropped a couple of spots, 3 spots, I guess. And again, understandable. We get it. We will talk more about Bama, Missouri tomorrow before the game. But I'm going to tell you, Jimmy, I look at this, Homer Simpson was told by Lisa the Chinese have the same word for opportunities they do crisis, and Homer said it's crisatunity. And I think Alabama has a crisatunity tomorrow night.
It's funny
where
every time.
if they go in there and drop this game and let essentially Auburn beat them twice, you're not going to convince me that Auburn didn't beat Alabama twice if Missouri beats Alabama tomorrow. Alabama's better than Missouri, and we need to go play like it. You know, Bruce Pearl, some people may have thought he sounded cocky the other day after talking about the Alabama game where he said, hey, we prepared like the number one team in the country. We were the number one team in the country today, and we are the number one team in the country. Yep, sounds cocky. Guess what else it is? True.
Factual.
So if I'm Nate Oates, my goal is this. All right, guys, y'all are Alabama. Y'all are top 5. You're going to be a top seed in the NCAA tournament. Top teams in the NCAA tournament go into Missouri and beat them. Are y'all going to do that? Now, I'm optimistic because somehow, some way, unbelievably, we play better on the road than we do at home, which is nutty.
I think it's an opportunity here for Alabama to prove worthy of a number one seed, because I think to rebound from a loss like that, a tough, crushing home loss with all the expectations and not play well, but then you go on the road in the league, which is tough enough, period. But now you're playing another ranked, really good team. I mean, Missouri's very, very good. The fact that you could rebound and beat a Missouri on the road, to me, sounds like something a number one seed would do. And I like how Lucas put that about not losing to Auburn twice. I agree. I mean, straight up, Alabama's a better team than Missouri. I think everybody agrees with that, but it is their place. I just think Alabama's put themselves in a position where don't free fall here. Don't free fall here. They haven't lost 2 in a row all year. Now's not a good time to start as we're getting close to March. Don't start doing that. But it is going to be tough. But let's play better, because there's another huge home game Saturday against the Kentucky Wildcats.
One or two other things, just some little tidbits I've gleaned, not giving away anything proprietary. And I thought this anyway, but it has been confirmed to me. And I should have said this on the podcast. I would have sounded a lot smarter beforehand. But I was worried, I kept talking all week last week where Auburn feasts off live ball turnovers. They feast off live ball turnovers. And we have a lot of live ball turnovers. We need to cut those down. Well, I was watching the game, and I was looking at their scoreboard above the court. I kept saying, boy, we don't have a lot of turnovers. And then it dawned on me, I think we're being too safe. I think that we're not taking enough chances. I want to cut down live ball turnovers. I'm also okay with some live ball turnovers in the sense that we continue to do our thing. And I think that was part of the anxiety of this game. Again, there'll be some Auburn fan who misconstrues this. Auburn beat Alabama. They beat them top to bottom, start to finish. It's the first time since Nate Oates has been in Alabama that we hadn't had the lead at all at home. Kudos to you. I am not making excuses. I'm trying to find reasons that we cannot let this happen again. And again, just congratulations, Auburn. You are the number one team in the country. I don't want anybody to get that twisted. But I am trying to think about what can we do to change that, because we're a team that, we're going to have some turnovers, and you have to accept those. Because when we play too safe like we did, I think we played uber tight, and that's also what we did.
Yeah, I think we changed things up a little bit. It wasn't, I'm going to call it big game anxiety a little bit, which I didn't expect. Alabama's played in so many big games. You're coming off a Final Four season, but it felt a little big game anxiety. But as much as all the analysis has been about the game, to me, it's just this simple. I said it on the show yesterday. Auburn shot 40%. Alabama shot 20% from 3. If you flip that, there's no question who wins the game. And I think when these two teams rematch, that's what's going to have to happen for Alabama to win the game. They have to shoot at or above their average from 3, and then defend Auburn's perimeter shooting better than they did. If they flip that 40-20 and it's 40% Alabama, 20% Auburn, then Alabama wins even at Neville Arena against the number one team in the country.
That's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.